We wanted to know the file. Yes.
Kindly be seated. Some of the brightest minds in the country can be found on the last benches of the classroom. I request all the bright minds to come forward and be seated. Request the participants to kindly come forward and be seated in the front rows. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, once said, "Teaching is a beautiful job as it allows you to see the growth day by day of people interested in your care. It is little like parents, at least spiritually. It is a great responsibility." Good morning, one and all present here. I, Dr. Filcy Anthony, welcome you to the third day of our 7-day national level faculty development program organized by the IQAC on research, innovation, and industry connect, empowering excellence in education. I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Rajesh Pandit, practitioner academic, Sister Nalini Cruz, manager, Dr. Sister Mary Louisa S., our principal, Sister Sajida Jose, administrator, Dr. Carol Stanley Semler, the IQAC coordinator, Ms. Neeta, the COE, chief coordinators, deans, HODs, and all the faculty members. And most importantly, hearty welcome to our dear participants, both online and offline. Let's have a glimpse of yesterday's session. Day 2 of the FDP began with the welcoming and felicitation of our resource person, Professor Pragasha GS, Associate Professor, Christ University. A minute of silence was observed in the memory of Holy Father Pope Francis. Professor Pragasha GS delivered an engaging session on how to write and publish academic research effectively. He began by explaining the importance of good research, clear writing, and following ethical guidelines. He shared useful tips for getting papers published, such as choosing the right journal, understanding editorial expectations, and maintaining clarity in writing. He discussed what journal editors usually look for: original ideas, relevance, strong methodology, and a well-organized structure. He also walked the participants through the parts of a research paper, including how to write an effective title, abstract, keywords, introduction, results, and discussion. An important highlight of the session was his guidelines on using research database. He introduced an elaborate database and explained how to sign up and explore it. He showed participants how to find suitable journals and understand their scope and requirements, which is especially helpful for selecting the right place to publish. Professor Prakasha also answered questions from the attendees, making the session interactive and informative. Overall, it was an insightful and useful session for the faculty and the researchers. Today's topic for the FDP is on empowering innovation and excellence in education. Bridging the gap between industry and academia is crucial for several reasons, including enhancing graduate employability, fostering innovation, promoting economic growth. By integrating practical skills and real world experience into education, institutions can prepare students better for the workforce and ensure they meet the demands of the job market. Due to this reason, today's topic on empowering innovation and excellence in education is a need of the hour. We are privileged to stand in the presence of a truly remarkable practitioner academic, Mr. Rajesh Pandit. Rajesh Pandit is a sought after practitioner academic, teaches at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Udaipur in the capacity of a visiting faculty. With 3 decades of rich professional experience, Rajesh has been teaching for over 13 years and has earned the respect of students and peers by his ability to bridge the gap between theory and practice. During his corporate career, spanning close to 2 decades, Rajesh served in leadership positions at multiple organizations of global repute that included Infosys and HP. He was instrumental in growing the businesses in both national and international markets. Number of startups have benefited by his expertise in achieving product market fit, developing go-to-market strategy, and sharpening investor and customer pitches. He has worked with multiple accelerators and incubation centers in guiding startups in the area of customer acquisition and retention. He has been a coach to Plugin Accelerator, a collaboration between Intel, Department of Science and Technology, and IIT Bombay, Society for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. He has been a master of faculty at Wadhwani Foundation, extremely sorry for that, Wadhwani Foundation, a renowned NGO focused on job creation in the developing world. By education, he is a mechanical engineer with a university rank and has completed Master of Arts in Psychology. He firmly believes that the success of communities is directly linked to the success of business that operate in those communities. His life's objective is to contribute to the success of conscious business in that direction. Sir, we welcome you today at Jyoti Nivas College. Kindly accept a token of appreciation from our principal. Kindly give a big round of applause to Mr. Rajesh Pandit. We now welcome Rajesh Pandit, pra-academic, to share his thoughts.
You have a Does it work? Yeah. Okay. Because it will help me move around a little bit. That's what I mean. Good morning. Thanks. Good morning. Pleasure and a privilege to be among the fellow academics. In fact, it's a joyful day for me because my sister teaches in the same institute. And it's the first time I'm in the institute. Obviously, thanks Santai for that. And all of you have been very, very gracious in listening to me. I mean, it's a large number. What I've done is I have brought in somewhat, it's called storytelling. And teachers teach storytelling all the time. How do you bring into the facet of any discipline is what I'm trying to bring in today. So when we talk about innovation, it's not about the technology. It's not nothing about newer tools and techniques. It is about a very simple thing called storytelling. And what I want to do is I want to practice it rather than control it. Is it okay? Should I be stuck to the podium? Then I can do that. Not a problem. I can come down. Okay, very nice. That makes it even more better. I feel comfortable sitting among you folks. So what I've done is, instead of teaching you how the storytelling techniques can be included in the curriculum, I have decided to practice and preach it by action. Okay, so the whole 2 hours, you will find, yeah, maybe I think I'll stick to that. Don't worry. That's no, no, that's oh, okay, thank you. I'll stick here. Is that okay? We have to work with the technology limitations at times. That's perfectly okay. So what I was saying is, instead of being preachy, saying here are the 5 steps to nirvana using the storytelling in your curriculum, I'm going to practice it in the next 2 hours, roughly about 1.5 hours. What I have is, first 45 minutes to an hour is an experience where you will behave like students. Okay, obviously you are not as privileged as I am. I have this august group as students. You have much more demanding stakeholders there in the classroom, but still you enact like the well-behaved students. And I'm going to take you through what is the topic of storytelling. Okay, and then the remaining 30 minutes or so, or 40 minutes, I'll show you how I have adopted that in some of my own courses, so that you can see the application side of it. So the first 45 minutes, just chill, like in the lingo of the Gen Z, the students in your classroom, and we'll see what magic happens. Before that, I want to share a story. The story is when Almighty created this world. And when he created this world, Adam Eve story is all very well known in this campus, yeah, and across the world. Whatever the faith and beliefs are, God created this world. And when he created the world, it was beautiful. The world was going on very well. Then he formed policemen to make sure he controlled as the population started growing. He brought in doctors, potters, lawyers, and so on and so forth. But what happened was, as the humanity started growing, uh, the elders started complaining, and the complaining came from the children's side. And therefore, he said, he asked policemen to take control of it. Almost half the humanity was behind the bars. Yeah, then that was not the solution. I mean, you couldn't put the entire humanity behind the bars and say, we'll control the population and then make it a Eden, right? It is not possible. So he entrusted the doctors to take care of these misbehaving children. And then doctors, what did they do? They made sure, children are controlled by drugging them a little bit, bringing their energy levels down. Now, there are a lot of people who are just zombily walking on the planet, and God was really worried about it. Then, who he created? He created the schooling system, and he created teachers. So you have you now understand where our stakeholders come from. So we are chosen one from the God, to be honest with you. Yeah, because the simple reason I say it is, I didn't realize until I donned the hat of a visiting faculty, and I'm not fully into your role. It's partial role that I play, and therefore my admiration for you is much, much higher. I'm not saying it because I want to earn some brownie points from the stakeholders here. If you look at any profession, you can be errant. But when a teacher is an errant, what happens? Everybody says you are a teacher. Yeah. So whether you like it or not, it is bestowed on a few. That's what I realized. And last 13 years have been a bit of transformational journey. Because as a teacher, you stand there and look at the world, and you realize you don't have too much of latitude. Yeah? You don't have too much of latitude. Like expression of around a religion. I can't do it. I just can't do it because my student community would have anyone from any part of the race and religion, and therefore my wings are cut out because in the classroom I only see students and nothing else. Yeah, that's the beauty of the great hearts which are here in this room. So I wanted to recognize that part that it's on a few that this role is bestowed, whether you like it or not. Yeah. So with that preamble, I'm going to get started a little bit more. Here is a story. This is too good to be true. A close friend of mine shared this, seemingly real. How many of you have heard the name of a music director by name A.R. Rahman? All of you? Oh, cool. Okay. So you're very familiar. Which was his first movie? Roja, you are right. Roja. Who's the director of Roja? Oh my God, I'm giving full toss to Mahendra Singh Dhoni in this room. Yeah. One more last one. Who is the Tamil movie music industry maestro? Ilayaraja. Oh, done. Okay. So very clear. Four characters, three characters that I need are answered by every one of you. This story is from late 80s, 87, 88, when Roja was apparently a concept in the mind of Mani Ratnam. Now, what apparently happened was Mani Ratnam was looking for some freshness in the music. Ilayaraja is a maestro, no doubt, and he has belted out some phenomenal, numbers. But it was getting routine. Even the best music, when it gets routine, you need, differentiation. And therefore, Mani Ratnam was having a chat with him, saying we should create something new. It is not that there was any fallout between Ilayaraja and Mani Ratnam. They are still friends. They collaborated on many movies even after Roja. But he was looking for something, and in a forum like this, late 88 or something, there was a puny fellow, very little young boy, sitting on the podium, played a tune, which was a music to the ears of Mani Ratnam. Okay, so Mani Ratnam saw, this was A.R. Rahman. I'm talking about 35 years ago. So very clearly, he was very, very young. And even today, he is not physically very imposing. Right? It's a short man who can be lost in a crowd, but his stature is so huge. But what happened was Mani Ratnam is seated there listening to this tune, and he looked at him and said, this young guy, right, might have tried a couple of tunes. I want to see whether he can measure up to my standards that I need for a movie, because movie standards are much higher. And therefore, with skepticism, he went to him and said, can you meet me? And I want to see whether you can live up to my expectation. The story goes that when A.R. Rahman went to meet Mani Ratnam, he didn't go and ask him, what tune would you like me to play? He went with a compendium of 1,000 tunes. And you remember, this was not a digital world, physical world, where you would write the notes on the paper. You've seen some of those music, composers, they still use the paper. Yeah. So he had created 1,000 tunes in his life by then. And he leaves that compendium on the desk of Mani Ratnam and says, so which tune would you like me to play? What's the moral of the story? Quickly, what's the moral of the story? What's the moral of the story? Any of you in the front? A.R. Rahman, instead of going and asking him what tunes to play, carries a compendium of 1,000 tunes and leaves it on the desk. You are absolutely right. Yeah, our duty is to be prepared. And today's session is somewhat of that nature. So don't expect too much. Some things will help you probably tomorrow itself. But a lot of messages are future as well. Like as teachers, we have to be ready for the world that is coming in and not the world that is happening today, right? Because today you are anyway managing. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go and share one more real life incident. You may have to touch the green ones. Yeah. I think that should work. Huh? Ah. Whoops. Good. All right, friends. So here is a story that probably most of you are aware of. 1880, Alabama, US. There was a little girl born in a family, and the joyous occasion, as everyone was celebrating, in 19 months it turned into a disaster for the family, catastrophic. And most of you are aware of the story that I'm mentioning. This girl contracted rarest of the rarest diseases, which turned her deaf and blind. And you all know who I'm talking about. Helen Keller, absolutely. Now, what happened is apparently for several months, as the family tried to come to grips with the situation, parents didn't lose hope. They started moving from one export to another. And in about 5 years, they reached out to a gentleman by name Alexander Graham Bell. Does that ring a bell in your ears? Yeah. And Alexander Graham Bell was working with some of the deaf children on using his hearing, innovation that he had created. But he admitted to them that, look, I can't help. The simple reason being she is blind as well. And at the same time, he referred her to an institute called Perkins Institute for Blind. And that changed the life of Helen Keller. What happened is, March 5th, 1887, when this girl was about 7 years old, there was a lady by name Anne Sullivan, who is 20-year-old, who herself was visually impaired, came into life of Helen Keller. And the rest of the journey is miraculous, experience. All of you must have heard about it. But I'll narrate for some of you who might have not gone into the depth of this. Anne Sullivan says, day one, when she met this little girl, fondly she carried her a doll. And the only sensory organ that was left for communication. Okay, this is going on. Okay.
This is fine, sir. Because live also is going. Sorry. Live also is going on. Can be this.
I think he's supposed to be routing. All right, we'll continue. What happened is apparently 1987, March 5th, Anne Sullivan enters the life of Helen Keller. Helen Keller had no inkling of there is something called the language. Please understand this. 19 months, the concept of language itself hasn't been developed in the children. They don't know that there is something called as a word for an object. And therefore, how do you communicate to a person who doesn't know that there is a language? Now, there is only one sensory organ left, which is the touch. And Anne Sullivan started with that. She made her hold the doll, which she had fondly carried for this little girl, and wrote DOLL on her hand. But the girl had no idea. Every day she was trying with some article, like mug, for example. And she says one of the days when she wrote mug, the girl was so irritated by and frustrated by what Anne Sullivan was doing, she threw the mug and mug broke. But Anne Sullivan didn't give up. Now, as the epiphany would have it, 6 weeks down the line, one day when water was flowing on her hand, on one hand from the tap, as she wrote WATER, suddenly the miracle happened and Helen Keller came to know that there is something called as language. Yeah. And she says in her book, The Story of My Life, just a small paragraph, I stood still with all my attention fixed on the motion of her fingers on the palm. Suddenly, I felt misty consciousness, as of something forgotten, thrill of a returning thought, and somehow the mystery of language was revealed to me. I then knew that WATER meant wonderful, cool something flowing on my other hand. The living word awakened my soul, gave it hope, light, and set it free. For the next 80 years, this girl became one of the finest motivational speakers, author, and an activist. Okay, so that's the power of Anne Sullivan. So in this room and online are filled with Anne Sullivans in the lives of many, many Helen Kellers. In this case, we have a very operating people, but metaphorically, all of us are blind and deaf in some areas. Yeah, and we all need Anne Sullivans in some way. So, folks, now I'm going to use some techniques for bringing the storytelling techniques to you. What I want you to do is become conscious. In about 30 minutes, I'll pause and say, what kind of techniques have I used? Yeah, and I want all of you to help me with that. Now, there are 3 stories that I came across in the last 7 years of my professional journey in this world. One, you can easily, all 3 you'll be able to relate. That's the beauty of today's session. Few takers for an elective offered by a professor with double PhD. He's my close friend. It is not the real picture. Okay, it is not right. Bring privacy. No, it is good. It's important to maintain privacy and confidentiality. Now, this very close friend of mine is a double PhD, and he was struggling in getting the attention of the students. Brilliant course, great intellect. The way the communication did not have any challenges. So this is one scenario that I came across. The second is a student of mine from IIM Ahmedabad. This happened about pre-COVID. I teach in a program where my average years of experience of students is about 7 years. Yeah, from the corporate one. So these are between 5 and 15 years of experience. And one of the girls who had taken one of the ladies who had taken my subject came to me with a dilemma. What was the dilemma? During the placement season, you have placement, right, in the undergrad, yeah. In the placement season, the company this lady wanted to join was not coming to the institute, yeah. Now, what happens is if you don't get the company you want to join in the institute, then you end up joining a competitor or some other company. She was very clear that she wanted to go into this industry and a few companies. She came to me with that dilemma saying, sir, what should I do? Because she knew I came from the corporate world. I looked at her resume at that moment and pedigree, which is like this time, yeah, high accomplishment. My own elective, I took a look at her scoring and she's the top of the quartile ranked student. And unlike the students today, she was gifted discipline. Okay? So I realized that this lady, one conversation with some corporate leader, she will sail through. So on that confidence, I told her, don't worry, you go through the placement season. And during the placement season, as an institute, we don't allow students to write to companies directly. But at the end of it, we allow because we don't want students to be sitting idle, right? You're not placed. That's not a good metric. So I said that window we will open and I will write to the companies, don't worry. And we'll get you a hearing. She went peacefully. As 2 months passed, one of the companies that worth her salt came to the institute. So she came to me promptly with 7, 8 email IDs from LinkedIn. And me and she drafted this beautiful letter and an email with a talented, gifted CV as an attachment to about 7, 8 email IDs. 2 weeks passed, not a single response back. So you can imagine what a hit I took to my image. Yeah, to having promised. So 2 stories. A colleague of mine, double PhD, not able to hold the attention of people or the students. And a student of mine, gifted, talented, not getting a call back from the organizations. The third is a unique one. I live in JP Nagar. And this is something that you are also, I'm not sure if you are aware of this field. Let me explain. 18 years back, I moved into a community where I've been living. My neighbor had a niece of his growing up in the neighborhood as well because they came from a tier 2 town. They wanted the girl to have great exposure. And now the same 2 or 3-year-old has grown into a beautiful young lady. And the neighborhood uncle sometimes know more than the parents. Yeah. This girl is on a dating spree. How many of you have heard the word dating? My goodness. So you are aligned to the current generation. Amazing. I thought, as teachers, there will be very blinkers. Okay, well, you all know the world has become, the culture of the world has flattened. Yeah. And they do yoga, we do dating, all of that. Yeah. Anyway, so this girl is on a dating spree. Now, perhaps at home they may not know, but I'm a neighborhood uncle. I've been a well-wisher of her. I have no conflict of interest, so I know, right? No conversation has moved to the second cup of coffee. Okay? So 3 scenarios: a faculty friend of mine having a challenge, a student of mine trying to get placed, and a teenager who I know very well, wanting to find a comrade, not finding someone. All three of them had one thing in common. What is that? Their stories are falling short. Yeah, they needed a story clinic. Why did they need a story clinic? It's all about engagement eventually. If I can't hold your attention today, I lose you. As simple as that. So how do we hold the attention of people? How do we engage with the audience in different forums is the holy grail of everything. Yeah. So I hope now you recognize what's the common factor. Now, well, I must admit to you, while that girl, my dear friend, young friend in my apartment complex, had all these challenges, I couldn't counsel her. Yeah. Because my own understanding of the dating field is huge. I help students, professionals like you, and academicians like you tell your story better. How can we improve the engagement level? So can any of you tell me what could be some of the reasons why my teacher friend was having a challenge? What could be some of the reasons? Yeah, can we get the mics out a little bit somewhere? We can place a couple of them here and there. We can hear out because when you have the engagement becomes easier. Any of you, what could be some of the reasons why you are intellectually very high, your communication style is good, yeah, but students are not enrolling into your course? What could be some of the reasons? Very nice. Not able to connect to them. Brilliant answer. Not able to connect to them. Yeah, beautiful one. Anything else? Beautiful. So what happened is since our institutions are autonomous, we have quite a bit of latitude. So I requested him, can I sit in your class for some time? I realized there was absolutely, it was flawless. Only thing he was missing is engagement with the students. One, yeah. Beautiful concept, simplified as well, but there's no engagement. Second, I saw was he never explained why it is important to them. Why? Why is the core? It's not what at all. Because what is obvious to us is not obvious to them at all. The life that we have lived, what they've seen is, and in your case, it's even more horrendous. Because your brains are also not fully formed. We know that. Yeah, brains don't get formed at 52 as well. Yeah, it's still shaping. You can imagine what happens at 18 and 19 and 20. We have also gone through that phase. And the world was very, very different. It was much more forgiving world then. So these people, you are contesting against a very, very different audience. Yeah. So very important element are two. One is sell the why, and second is engagement. That's what I realized from sitting into my friend's classroom. Okay. Now, well, I want to show you what we do in the classroom now. This is the definition of experimental design from not some Aira Institute. This is from Purdue University. Yeah, one of the most respected. People hesitate to accept my point because who is Rajesh Pandit, right? That's why I plonked the URL out there, okay, for just on a lighter note. For the skeptic people saying, where did you get this from? Okay. Now you read this. Experimental design is the design of all information gathering exercises where variation is present, whether under the full control of the experimenter or not. The experimenter is often interested in the effect of some process or intervention on some objects. This is what we are forced to teach. Yeah. This is Herculean. And that's where what happened is 10 years back, I would have taught the same thing in a similar manner, a little bit more glamorously, but only incrementally different. I read a book called Lead with Stories by a gentleman by name Paul Smith. Okay, that changed my life. That changed my life. Do you see this in the classroom as well? This is my classroom too. Yeah, even today, despite all the techniques. Yeah. Now, Paul Smith in his book refers to one of his experience in the corporate world very early. He was a big skeptic saying storytelling, all these techniques won't work, right? Because facts, figures, concepts is what we have to impart. It's a serious matter. How can you have fun? How can you lighten the moment? Will the gravity of the matter lose its importance? So these are the questions in our mind. So Paul Smith went to his mentor called Andrea Heckelman. And this lady was an inspirational leader, storyteller par excellence. So he goes to Andrea and says, Andrea, does storytelling work? Andrea did not answer this question directly. She's a master storyteller. She said, you should experience this. Let's see whether you can experience it. And she said, Paul, relax. I want to tell you 3 lines. Let's see whether you can recall this. And she went and told these 3 lines. 2 legs sit on 3 legs, eating 1 leg. Along comes 4 leg that steals 1 leg from 2 legs. 2 legs hits 4 legs with 3 legs and gets his 1 leg back. And she said, Paul, can you recall this? How are you able to recall this? Unless you have referred this somewhere. Very difficult, right? Yeah. She asked Paul, were the numbers difficult? He said, no, ma'am. What kind of digits did I use? 1, 2, 3, 4. They were not decimals. They were not million. No, not complex. Was it in English or Swahili? English. And it was not even Tarurish English, right? We don't need to refer to dictionary, simple words. And she said, look, in 30 seconds, you are not able to remember 3 lines. We expect the audience to remember our instructions for after 3 months, 6 months. And this is the corporate world. Okay? Much easier than our world, where people are a lot more mature. They are paid to understand. So I hope you can see. And she said, look, this is what is happening to the world. That's why we need the storytelling power. And she said, listen, I'll make it easier for you. I'll tell you 3 more sentences. And she said these 3 sentences. A young boy sits on a stool eating a chicken bone. Along comes a dog that steals the chicken bone from the boy. Boy then hits the dog with the stool and gets his chicken bone back. Yeah? How many of you will not be able to recall this? What happened between the first version and the second version of the story? This is exactly the point, right? You can see a boy is 2 legs, stool is 3, chicken bone is 1, dog is 4, and you can reconstruct the entire complex jargon of 3 lines. What happened when you listen to the second one over the first one? Sorry? Meaningful. You visualized, exactly. You are painting the picture in your mind. So friends, very simple. Storytelling is nothing but helping the audience visualize. Simple. If you were to ask me one message to take away from today, try and see how we can paint the picture, not them, make them understand. Yeah. And we'll see how to do it as we go along. Okay. Now, this has a little bit of complexity. Take a look at this. Now, when I said a young boy sits on a stool eating a chicken ball, can you tell me the age of the boy? Any of you that you are visualizing? 8 years, 7. Is he wearing a shirt or a t-shirt? Again, okay, which color t-shirt? I'm sure everyone will have a different answer. Now, this is good and bad. Good is, since you're visualizing, you left out all your thoughts and you are engaging with me. So the moment you get people to visualize, they are in the classroom. Otherwise, they are out. Yeah. The problem is the boy that I am visualizing and you visualizing are different. If I said this boy, sorry for the Yeti example, this boy is putting his finger in the nose. You guys will say, 10-year-old, it doesn't fit in. A 4-year-old, yeah, we've all done silly things. Yeah. So it's very important to control the visuals in the mind of the audience. So if I were to explain this, I'll have to say, ladies and gentlemen, visualize an 8-year-old boy wearing a white round neck t-shirt, khaki jeans, and Nike shoes. 80% is accurate because I don't care about the skin color and the hair because it is not relevant to the topic. If it is, then I have to paint that picture. Okay. Now, when I said Nike shoes, how many of you did not see the swish mark? If you didn't, then I also, please enroll for my training session on how to visualize. I'm just joking. Yeah. Now, if I were to say Puma shoes, what would you see? Puma coming out. If I said Adidas shoes, three stripes. If I said Rajesh Pandit shoes, so it has to be relatable, and this is a challenge for you because every age category has something that they can visualize and something that they can't. So the best of the examples fall short because the audience is not engaged with this, because they can't relate to it. So your ability to raise the bar for someone, like some of you teach in PG and then UG at the entry level, you will have to dumb it down 100th to get the audience to understand. Okay, all this while you have to stay true to the university curriculum. So I know, okay, there is only so much that you can do, but incrementally, I'm just saying incrementally, like A.R. Rahman said, right? I am ready. That's all you can do. Now, well, if I have the gift of visual medium, like I have a presentation, I have screens to use, then it's much easier. I don't need to speak too much. See this? The picture comes alive. It tells you very clearly 6-year-old or a 8-year-old. It is not a high teen at all. But if I plot the picture of a high teen, it won't be a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old. So you can use the words less, use the visual medium. But I don't know how many of you have that liberty and luxury. But if you have, please use them very, very beautifully and meticulously in your articulation. Now I'll move forward and help these people. Okay, going back to the definition of experimental design. How can I dumb it down a little bit so that people can understand? So here is a narrative. A car driver on a dusty road finds the windshield wiper malfunctioning because the fluid chamber has run dry. Now imagine a friend of the driver guiding this person through filling up that fluid chamber. And that's the beauty of user manuals. User manuals help in great deal. Experimental design is nothing but a user manual for an experimenter. It tells the experimenter what to do, when to do, how to, step by step. What have we done to this in the name of accuracy? This. And that's where I think the challenges lie. Okay. So please understand clarity and then precision. I had to forego my precision, and I was an engineer, so you can imagine I have a massive challenge. We are known for accuracy. And that too, mech engineers. Mech engineers have to be accurate. You cannot say an auto rickshaw, when I design, 3 people will climb on it and let it run. 4th one, it will break. How many people climb in an auto rickshaw in India? You have no count. So can you imagine as an engineer, what kind of a factor of safety you need to plug in into your design? Yeah. So I came from extreme precision world And I realized that is why I was losing the students. So the point is, you should not lose precision, by the way. That's why they come to the class. It's not like, in a management, at least you can be in the gray area. But in science, maths, you have to be precise. Yeah, there is no latitude for them saying, it works. It depends. 2 plus 2. What is the answer? It depends. No. Management, it depends, right? So that's why I'm saying for you, precision is the most important. But trade that for some time to gain clarity. Once the person says, I think I have got it. If you've got it, then it is not just that simple. I want to show you now the next level of complexity. So I think that teacher has the biggest challenge of making this happen. What is clarity for the person? And then progressively taking them to precision. So let me show you a very simple example from the world of products. Dyson vacuum cleaner. All of you have heard of pioneer in vacuum cleaning. Yeah. This is their product description in one of the pages. I won't even go down. Where is my friend Mikhail? Mikhail, where are you? You're at the back. Okay. So Mikhail can understand because he teaches chemistry, he said. Yeah. He's a professor of chemistry. But most of us will struggle. Now you take a look at the same product which is mentioned in the sales literature because the customer, they take kindness towards. Now this is what is written. Tough and durable. Dyson vacuums are made from ABS and polycarbonate. They have told you what is there. The same material used in riot shields and crash helmets. Is this clear? Very clear. Now you can go and tell them why they should know ABS and polycarbonate. Because if you want to build the best crash helmets, which save all our policemen from the rioters, then you have the responsibility to know what is ABS and polycarbonate. Yeah? At least 10% of our students will listen. That's how low the ratio is. But that 10% is sufficient to change the world. Don't worry about the entire audience. Of course, our duty should be to try. But you may lose some. That's okay. That's okay. So, okay. I mix up. This is the picture from my previous session. Yeah, this is what we see in the classroom. Very clear. Who should we blame for this? Teacher or the audience? Audience, we'll say audience. You go and ask the students or any room now here. Who is the one who is at fault for all of you getting disengaged? Yeah. It's neither you and me. At least in the classroom, we all know, right? We know what we want to teach. We have also come to learn something. But it's the communication techniques that we have been using that are falling short. Yeah, that needs a refresh. Now imagine today's session, I have two cohorts. One I'm not able to see. This is a gift in my life. Why? This picture is a blessing in my life. Why? Because it's visible. I also have classrooms on this. Yeah. Here you are telling me, Rajesh, you are excited about this topic. We are not. And that's a good cue for me. Then I'll run and say, Anutai, please help. She's anyway my sister. She'll say, don't worry, we'll play some Zumba music. Teachers get stressed and we'll all do some Zumba music. You see, in the training sessions, we do a lot of activities. Why? Because you zone out. But if the topic is interesting, trust me, you don't need any activities. Yeah. Now, this is where the challenge is. Here, I don't even know whether that audience exists or not. They were logged in. That's about it. Yeah, no disrespect to my friends online, but I'm just saying that's the reality of life. And hence, what I've done is I've stopped asking this question to my students, my participants. What do you recall from my session last week? Why? In the past, my participants have given a very scary look. Yeah, this is the look I received when I asked this question. So I said, forget about it. I do the same thing. It's not that, I am in a great shape. Yeah. So friends, while I've used humor to bring it out, on a serious note, when we are explaining to an audience, in any forum, right now I'm trying to explain, and you're all nodding your head saying, I understand. Rajesh, because it's the same language, we can also understand. If I'm in Tamil Nadu, you'll use Tamil to speak to the stakeholders. Karnataka, Kannada, Kerala, Malayalam. You go to Guju land, you'll speak in Gujarati, right? Punjabi, and so on and so forth. So the audience nods their head saying, there's no problem in understanding. But 2 weeks down the line, 3 weeks down the line, 6 weeks down the line, when you have to recall, that's where the chasm lies. So if you want to make people understand speak in normal English, normal language, doesn't matter. If you want it to be recall worthy, if you want people to recall, remember, assimilate, absorb, it has to have a different veneer of communication. That's why the classrooms have to be transformed into storytelling, story sharing, workshops rather than one-way communication. That's my belief. Okay, so we don't have a choice. You have a lasting effect, last much beyond the classroom. So how do we get our stories to stick? How do we get our concepts to stick? And that's where the storytelling concepts come in handy. So friends, thank you for being a wonderful audience. Welcome to the workshop on storytelling for the faculty members. I'm Rajesh. There has been already, glorious introduction that did. She was too generous. It looks so glamorous. But all of us have our own challenges, and I have butterflies at this moment addressing you folks. As much as many times I stand in the classroom, facing even more brutal audience. Yeah, I want to share my introduction in a slightly different manner. What do you recall from my intro? Anybody remembers anything from intro? Hardly anything. And tomorrow, if I ask you, you will give me the same picture. So I want to. No, you are kind. This is a different group. You don't get this group as students, as participants. So I'll introduce myself in a slightly different manner. Okay? I grew up in my childhood, the first formative years. I was born in Sirsi. You were also born in Sirsi. We both share the same hometown. But I didn't grow up there because my parents were working in a nearby town called Siddhapur. Most of you would even know. There are three ways I can make you remember my story of Siddhapur. One, I can give you geographical longitude and latitude. What will you say? Oh my God, yeah, what's going to happen to us next 1 hour, right? That's the worst way of saying. I can do another example. How many of you heard of Jog Falls? Yeah, wonderful. Our hometown is 60, 70 kilometers from Jog Falls. What is Jog Falls famous for? Highest waterfall. Yeah. Now, by giving this example, what will most of you remember? Jog Falls. So, by giving a powerful example, I have undermined myself because the concept has taken a backseat and the topic has been mired by the biggest example used. So, be careful when you are sharing the concept. Is the story important or the concept important? The story should not be so overpowering that you will remember the story but not the concept, because eventually they need to go and build that out somewhere. Yeah, so that balance is required. Now I'll explain you my hometown a little differently. How many of you eaten pan? The pida, not the pan masala and women pan masala. No jarda varda and all. Huh? Please, I'm talking about sada meetha pan. Yeah, sweet pan. If you have eaten 7 pans in your life, at least one would have betel nut from our hometown. 15% of supari, areca nut production happens in that belt. 15% of India's production, not some small. And our hometown is one of the biggest merchant towns for areca nut trading. Okay? Growing up in a small town like this, I didn't know whose home I had breakfast in, whose home I had dinner in, whose home I had lunch in. Carefree world where they didn't need mom's approval to say whether I can feed this kid. Yeah, and we didn't know whether we had dairy allergies, nut allergies. If somebody puked, they would clean up and feed something else and pack up. Now, why am I sharing this story? The reason for sharing this story is 8 years back, a friend of mine made us do an exercise. In that exercise, he made us list down the strengths in our life. And he said, list down the places you grew up in. And he said, investigate closely. You will recognize some of the strengths in your life were imprints left in your character by the communities you grew up in. Now, what I recognized is 17 years of my career in Infosys, iGate, Fidelity, and Hewlett Packard. I spent a lot of my time facing clients and external people. When you have an external world, you need to take to strangers very easily. And if you have to take to strangers easily, you can't be shy. So where did my shylessness come from? It came from shamelessly eating at every home in Sirsi. So you would see today children don't come and ask, demand. Do they demand anything from us? They don't. They order. Yeah, unfortunately, that is lost. We would go and demand, auntie, we want this. And my friend's mom has to cook it. So you are very outgoing, you are not shy of things. Now, I'm not saying that's the only, one can be reticent and be contributing. I'm just saying our strengths come from the communities. Why am I sharing this story? If you dig deeper in each one of us, there are hundreds of stories that are embedded there. When you bring the relevant story from your personal life, it engages with the audience, the connect becomes better. Okay, so shall we do a small exercise? Yeah, it's like speed dating. This is speed dating. We have to use the same cool terms. It is not dating. Speed dating means intro. Okay, so don't feel scandalous. What we'll do is find out a person next to you. Yeah, find a pair. Very quickly, pair. You have found your partner. Everybody has found a partner. Don't waste your time too much. And friends online, I don't know whether we can do breakout sessions. It will be complex, so leave it, no problem. Let them watch. Yeah, have you all found a partner? Yeah. So this is the intro exercise. Intro exercise. We'll give 2 minutes, 1 minute per person. Just 1 minute. What do you have to cover? Which place you came from? Yeah, any place. It doesn't need to be because some of you would have moved around the world. Your favorite place, but from childhood, not now. We get meaner as we become elder. World also becomes mean to us when we become elders. But as children, we got a lot of discomfort. Yeah. So pick a place from your childhood, transport the person to that. You saw, right? How did I transport to Sirsi? How do you remember Sirsi now? Or Siddhap Arekanat Association. I took you saying it's a very beautiful place nestled in the Western Ghats, right? Joke Falls, all of that. So transport them very quickly to that place. Don't say, I'm from Guntur, the place of, hot chilies. You've not transported the person. Yeah. Transport the person there and share one of your strengths in life that was gift from that place. Anything, just about anything. Yeah. Shall we do that? 1 minute per person. So first, whoever is a speaker becomes the listener later, and listener first becomes the speaker. Now remember, the listener should not be a guy like me. I'll explain who am I. If one of you comes and tells me that, say for example, Nair ma'am comes and tells me, Rajesh, I'm from Hyderabad. Hyderabad, ma'am? Oh my God, what biryani is, oh really. Paradise biryani, useless. No. Now pista art is very good, ma'am. So what has happened here? I have taken over our story. Yeah, when you are a listener, really give the gift of attention. Don't get excited so much that you are gone out of that story. Yeah, you should be able to share that story later. Shall we start? 2 minutes, 1 minute each. Hold the partner to 60 seconds. Because if they take more than 60 seconds, you lose time. So your time starts now. Lights. Couple of lights. Time out. Okay, we'll pause here. Let's hear out some juicy stories. One juicy story from your friend. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Hennock has come from Ivory
Yeah,
Coast.
now let's listen
The
to the
first
story.
thing.
You have to stick to the time. Paper is up. I'm snatching the paper out, okay?
Mr. Hennock has come from Ivory Coast, from West Africa. And the second thing, Ivory Coast is famous for chocolates and cocos. They're famous for chocolates and cocos. The third thing, what he said, yeah, basilica, that word I couldn't get. That's why I asked him. Basilica, that's what he said. Mr.
Give a
Hennock.
round of applause to Professor Hennock.
Yeah.
And what's your name?
I'm Dr. Gulappa Wakunda. Gulappa Wakunda.
Wakunda.
Yes.
So Professor Wakunda also deserves a big round of applause. Why? In today's world, he listens to good stories. Where he has not only listened to the story, he has amplified the story for us, right? Grateful. Thank you. Wonderful. Anyone from here? Juicy story.
Sir, my partner comes from Bangalore, and what I remember and connect with Bangalore is that it is known for fish curries. That's how I could, yes. And I was waiting to meet you for today's section because when I read in the brochure that you're from IIM Udaipur, my birthplace is Udaipur. I've come from Udaipur all the way from Rajasthan to Karnataka. And as far as she remembers, like one of the James Bond movie was shot over there in Udaipur. And Akash Ambani's wedding, Mukesh Ambani's son wedding happened in Udaipur. And all great personalities from the world. Amitabh Bachchan goes to Udaipur for taking rest in Udaipur.
Do we need a brand ambassador for Udaipur? I'm going to tell the state, CM. Round of applause. Any one more juicy story? Very juicy story. Anybody? I never saw it this way. One more. Yeah, sure. Please. Others are being very disrespectful to their partners, huh?
So my partner is Roshni ma'am. So she's from Udupi. So she would love to go back to her place, usually to her uncle's place in the month of December. So she, in her childhood, she would always want to go in the month of December. So one is because of the climate. The other two main reason why she goes over there is one is for Gatbad ice cream. So her class and the spoon was, I think, taller than her. So she used to pick up for that. And she would love the jelly, which is beneath under. So that is one. Then December is a season of Christmas, cakes and cookies. So her neighbor was a Catholic Christian. So they would always share too much of cakes and cookies. So she's very much fond of cakes. So that is about her childhood place.
Last one, yeah.
So my partner
Please, ma'am.
my partner is Captain Rupa. So first she told me that she's from Rajasthan. Then I had to ask her where in Rajasthan. Then she said Rajasthan is in India. I said no, the city in Rajasthan. Then she said she's from Kota. She comes from her father was a CISF officer, so she's lived all over India. So I really had to kind of have an interrogation. And then she said Kota is her favorite place. And what she remembers is the acute shortage of water. So they used to store water in whatever containers they could find, and water would come only once a week. But she says that's her favorite place. 7 years wish.
So you can see underneath lies that, what's your name? Sorry, I missed your name. Captain Rupa. So she can manage with very little resources. That's what she said in her story. So in the story, when you're sharing, there are hundreds of things that you want to share. But something that is very dear to you is what you end up focusing on. Yeah. So how did you feel about this experience? Forget about what information it is. How did you feel? What are the feelings? When you were sharing the stories, what did you feel? Feeling?
Actually, we found that we are neighbors.
Whoa! My goodness. You're amazing.
Neighbor from school,
Wow.
from place.
Excellent. Anyone else? How did you feel about this? Great. Yeah.
Travel to many places now.
Travel to many
Yeah,
places.
that-
What did you see in the eyes of the people who were explaining? A complete pride of the place, happiness. Yeah. Did any of you remember? She's my dean who asked me this question. She was my colleague who did not even share that, the job piece with me. None of that. It was all of us. That's the beauty of stories. So, friends, storytelling has to be brought back into our life. Forget about the classrooms. Yeah, it makes the hearts. It helps us in really connecting to people. We hear from people who we connect to, and storytelling helps in connecting. I hope you experience it. So we'll move forward. What did you learn in the last 45 minutes? Now you have to give me that. What were the techniques that I used? Very nice. Anything else? Excellent. Beautiful. Any other techniques that I used? What did I start with? What was my first message? God. God made us. That's true. I truly believe. Because we don't have luxury to even express on certain areas. Yeah, because the people in the audience is whom we serve. And everybody is a student. It just doesn't matter whether somebody has scored 100 or 0. It is my student, simple. Yeah. Why did I do that? I wanted to tell you why. Yeah, it's connecting to the audience. It's called building a common ground with the audience. Yeah? We need to connect to the audience. And you can't do it for the sake of doing it. You should believe it. Because if I don't believe in it, if I don't have the conviction, it will become visible in my ears. Yeah, and eyes. Very important. So, friends, I used my own stories, the 3 stories. So, create a story bank of your own stories. What was it like growing up? What was it like learning? Where the challenges were? How the world has changed? Let them also come to know what was the world we lived in. So when they know that at least once took one step, at least some of them will come closer to us, saying, that's the world you lived in. And that's why you behave like this. Yeah, you get the point. If I keep telling my own stories, what would have happened? You guys would have said, oh my God, we have an egomaniac in this room. 2 hours are gone because we'll learn, but it'll only be his stories. So I brought in Paul Smith's story. I brought in my colleague's story. So you need to blend our story with other stories. Otherwise, it becomes fun. For today's generation, they don't like preaching. It has to be made to them subtly saying, I see that. Yeah. So this is where you need to blend other stories. The third is helping the audience visualize. I hope you could now recognize every one of you have transported your partner to another world. You are gifted as much as a movie director. It's just that we have not honed that skill. The moment you become conscious of it, that's it. You will transport the audience to where they can see what we are trying to say. The fourth one, it's not about making people understand. It's about making people remember. And if you want to make people remember, it has to be a scene, scenario from their real world, which they can relate to. Yeah. So relatability is the most important element in making people moving from I understand to I remember, I recall. And the last one that I've used is get audience involved. Yeah. I could have been stuck here, but that's where, I worked a little bit with them and they said, we will allow you to move around. And I used that luxury to go and involve with you. And even if I didn't have, I can run my workshop in a manner that I keep posing questions. I may not get answers, but as if you are set up for that question, I keep answering. So the conversational style of delivery helps you in great deal in a forum of this nature. Because in a classroom, you can go and shake up people. In an audience of this nature, today you've come to learn. But if it's a 30-minute keynote, I can't go and keep involving you. So how do we do this? Conversational style of delivery. Okay. So these are very 5 simple techniques that you experienced. Tell me there is something that I did differently, which typically doesn't happen in a workshop or a training room, which I've done slightly differently. Tell me what was it? I know ma'am did that. Intro. Did you realize my intro came a little end? Of course, ma'am was very gracious to give me that intro, but I did my own intro at the end. Do you know why? It is thanks to this research done by a psychologist studying the field of communication. And this graph doesn't do justice. I'll explain this what it is. the experimenter, psychologist, experimented with senior folks like you who were subjected to a painful experience called presentation over 40 minutes. It was very excruciatingly painful. At the end, he went around, just like I asked you what were your learnings. He asked, what is that you recall? And that's the degree of retention. This is degree of retention. And the x-axis is, you can see 40 minutes. Now, this is not the accurate curve. I couldn't get it on Google, whatever internet I could find it. It's actually a bell curve. It drops like this, stays slow, and spikes back up. It is not linearly degrading. Attention doesn't go down linearly. This was a slap on my face. Why? Because the most fertile time of my audience, any audience, is the first 10 minutes and the last few minutes. What do we do in the first 10 minutes? We do introduction. Yeah, when you have the most fertile time of attention span, being at a heightened level. So even in the classroom, it is the same. Now, what he said is, he's a psychologist, so obviously some of you would know. He said anticipation of something new is why our brain naturally is in overdrive at the beginning. Can you tell me why does it go back at the end? Any of my close friends? Because it's finishing. See, my sister, she's saying, when will it get over? Tell us. Yeah? So that's why it goes up, relief of closure. So his point was, if audience is going to give you attention at the end, why don't you announce saying it's going to end now? Don't worry. The moment you say what happens, you'll say, now let's listen that last one message. So our duty is to grab the attention of the audience. That's it. Yeah, maximum time. So he came out with this saying, it is a primacy effect and the recency effect that happens in our brain. It is simple, it's all here. Primacy effect is what happens in the brain at the beginning of a session that allows the audience to be attentive to us. And what happens at the end is the recency effect. Now, what do we do between this with the audience which has a very, very short attention span? He said there is something called as a frequency effect. What does it mean? You have to engage much more frequently. Stellar opening, spectacular beginning, like Bahubali 1. How many of you seen Bahubali 1? All of you? Yeah? What happens? Brahman Krishna, that Shivagami is carrying the baby, right? Atirapalli Falls. Rajamouli Sahab made it into a Niagara Falls. A small falls into, yeah? Cut, copy, paste. Then she takes all the arrows, dust, and the baby is in her hand. The body gets washed away only when somebody picks up the baby. We were sold 45 minutes. We were sold. And closing should never be, in a hurry. One big message, emotional one, to connect to the audience. What was the closing message in Bahubali 1? Kyo Mara? That resulted in 2,000 crore more business. One message. One message. So don't underestimate the closing of the session. Now, what do we do in between? Keep engaging regularly. So that when you look at this graph, which is dipping here, this dip, it keeps bouncing off. The ability to bounce off is very important. So keep re-engaging so that you don't let it fall. That's it. This is what we need to do for the class. They're easier said than done, very clearly, because concepts are not movies, right? We don't deal with movie script. It's a hardcore concept. Science, arts, commerce, mathematics, economics. Yeah. So we have to find a way, man. How do we connect to the audience in the beginning? How do we leave them high? And we have to cover the syllabus. Okay. Now I want to bring one more set of tools and techniques before I switch gear to show you how I have adopted. Today's world is an attention scarce world. Would you agree? Yeah. In this attention scarce world, our attention is the biggest commodity for someone. Billions of dollars are being blown in by brands to grab our attention. Despite this, there are some attention stealers. Who are our attention stealers? Who are the attention stealers in our proximity? Yeah. As if these are not sufficient, those mindless friends of mine who keep posting TikTok videos and reels. while I am telling you this today, this morning I have surrendered 30 minutes to these friends of mine. That is their effect. Now we can, typically what happens is, as teachers, it comes naturally to us that, what a world it has become, how beautiful was our generation, blah, 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 which is slightly cynical. But if I were to say, what do we learn from TikTok videos? What techniques do they use? What do they do? Why do they have power over us? What techniques do they use? You are absolutely right. They are catchy, they are short and sweet, and then they are pertinent to us. So this is where ABC of communication comes in. We know it, but we are not so regimental in using it. My request is, this is principles of communication. So we have to be regimental in using this. What is this? Accuracy, privacy, and clarity. What is accuracy? You get your message across very easily only when you know your audience. Here, unless I'm aligned to the audience, I lose the audience. So my message lands accurately only when I am in service of the audience. Today, if some of you didn't get what I'm saying, I cannot come with a hubris saying, oh, what kind of faculty members are these? I have taught at this, that. These people are not understanding. No, if I did that, I'm gone. I'm not serving my craft. If I am serving my craft, it is to figure out what happened that you could not relate to what I was saying. And I include that in my next version. Yeah. So I hope you understand we are in service of the audience alike. Brevity, you have to earn your right, and I'll bring this out a little bit more emphatically a little later. Clarity, you saw the clarity, simplifying the complex. The Dyson vacuum cleaner, all of you remember? How did the clarity come? By visualizing us with exactly crash helmets and riot sheets. You are absolutely right. Yeah. So that's the way to simplify, but then you take them to precision. So ABC, you have to stay true to. Now I'll bring the brevity part, which is the most difficult. Break down your sessions deliberately into smaller chunks. This morning when I came, how much of your attention span did you give me? About 8 to 10 minutes. Because this is the generation which grew up on reading biology book for hours and still make sense of it. Yeah? One of the toughest, right? Logically, it's very difficult to make sense. You read and then make sense of it. So our attention spans are 8 to 10 minutes. What is the attention span of our students? 2 to 3 minutes. That's it. So what I need to do is 8th or 10th minute, I have to do something deliberately different that re-engages you with me. What will you do? What will you say? Next reel. Yeah. How much more attention span will you give me? 8 to 10 more minutes, because that's all we are left with. Now at 18th or 20th minute, I need to earn your next 8 minutes. Earn your next 8 minutes. Hopefully you will be in the room for 50 minutes. So our duty is to engage. So friends in your classroom, this is one of the challenges. We want to cover more, but that's going to be at a compromise a little bit. I must admit, because I was, when I started my teaching career a dozen years ago, my students would read 25-pager cases. And if they didn't come having read the case, I would say, get out and all that. Now what has happened is, my students said, you are a nice guy. Yeah, we will accept your harsh words, but we will not change. They told me, sir, we are telling you because you are very close to us. Well, I'm a little bit more friendly, right? I'm not in the institute and I come from the corporate world, etc. So my examples are relatable and all that for them. So they came and told, sir, you are a nice person. We sit and listen. You beat us, but we will not read 40 pages. That's over. So what do I do now? My cases have to be shrunk to 5 pages. Otherwise, I'm not. There's nothing. I can't do a value judgment saying, oh, you're all namakuts. Huh? Our teaching method has to change to cater to this. This is a reality. There's nothing we can do. So what do I do? First 10 minutes are lost in getting everybody to read, groups, they discuss, and then come up with questions. But when they come with a question, it's much better than a question that I would have asked as a 22-year-old or a 24-year-old. That I must admit. I wouldn't have been able to match them up. Yeah. So the way we are conducting it, we just don't have a choice. That's my reality. Yeah, I don't know how you feel about it. So let's move forward. Take a look at this. Remember this? Of course. What do we remember? Most students of ours remember from this Archimedes principle. The naked man running out of the bathtub and screaming, Eureka, Eureka. Even today, all your students remember because I meet them in the corporate world. Okay? What do they remember? CEOs. I've asked CEOs. Huh? They said, Apple, I said, I'm going to record this and put it on social media. Your employees should see this. I asked for Newton's law of gravity and you told me Apple. Most don't remember this because nobody has associated stories with them. Naturally, our duty is to associate stories with them. Yeah, I'm sure some of you do that. My request is concepts are not remembered, the associations are remembered. Are you building associations in your classroom? This is a task on our shoulder. We didn't have to do it for our generation. We would happily go and mug, figure out and read and come. Today's generation won't. It's our duty because, please understand the only hope this generation has is in this room. They don't listen to parents anyway. Yeah. The world is built rebelliously. The only place I was, having a chat with my friends here over a cup of coffee, and I told them this is my realization. The worst rebellion in your classroom is the least rebellious in his or her life in the classroom. If you thought this is a rebellion, in the real world, they are 10x more rebellious. So they have been extremely kind. They've discounted a lot for the prof and teachers. That's the beauty of at least our world. Yeah, at least in the eastern part of the world. So the reason is brains are wired for stories. And there is a lot of neuroscience study that has taken place. Left brain, right brain, limbic versus cognitive. And it is very clear. Facts, figures, concepts appeal to the left brain. Imaginative, emotional part is in the right brain. If we don't provoke or evoke emotions, then the concepts are not remembered. Concepts are remembered when you codify them with the stories. All of you remember Thirsty Crow story? Yeah? When did you rehearse that? Long time ago. Nobody rehearsed. Once told, it is there in our head. But Pascal's law, oh my God. Yeah? So that's the beauty. Stories make the content memorable. I'll give you one example. We had a great prof who taught us automotive engineering. This I'm talking about engineering. I did my engineering from National Institute of Engineering, Mysore. And we had a prof who had designed something for Maruti 800 in 80s. And I did my graduation in 94. So I'm talking about 92, 93 story. In automotive engineering, we had to design the brake pads. What should be the thickness of brake pad? And I'll give you the entire problem statement. Anybody wants to attempt this? I'm sure some one of you will. Yes, I'm afraid of that. I'll not invite. Now, this will talk about, the speed at which the vehicle is going, the mass of the vehicle, the coefficient of friction, blah, blah, material science, everything is given for you to compute. Our prof would come, brilliant prof. He would start from the beginning. He would start writing the formula. All of us would be sitting and watching and writing. And if you ask me, what do you remember from braking systems? Zilch. I don't know many things, but I'm saying that one zilch. But one thing that he could have done, if I were to live his life today, only difference I would have done, this is the formula that you would write on the table, write on the board. Only difference I would do is trigger the imagination. Saying, guys, what do you think the driver must have felt and is jamming the brake and the car isn't halting? How would you feel if you are behind the wheels? Yeah? How would you feel if you are seated behind and you are trusting yourself with a driver, with a vehicle that the person is trusting on? Shall we please learn the brake pads a little bit more? That's all I would do. Even after that, you will 50% of us are anyway not motivated. But 5 engineers that you have changed is sufficient for this world. Yeah? So this is my trick now. So this is what I mean by tell the why. And somebody said this beautiful line, a French author, if you want your men, of course, even women, that was an old one. If you want your men to build great ships, make them yearn for the seas. What does this mean? Make them fall in love with the seas, ocean, and they'll probably build better ships. Because once you fall in love with the ship, ocean, if you want to float, you will build classy ships. So make them fall in love with the subject. That's very important. Concepts, they only sound so much. And one has a journey, they also have to be philosophical. We can't change everything. But we can be a shoulder in that journey. Appeal to the hearts with a why. Why is what appeals to the hearts of people. I'm going to bring one more example. We had a great history prof. I still remember this. I don't remember very many things, but I remember history. All of you have read this, Battle of Plassey, and we even passed the exam by writing which day it happened, what was the time, Rahu Kala, Guli Kala, whatever, who killed whom, some 2-3 people. Yeah. But nobody told us in a manner, one of my history profs said, Mr. Prabhu, in Gibbs High School in Kumta, where I studied. And he said, this was a turning point in India's history. Pay attention, students. First time, East India Company got the territorial control of India through this battle. Till that point in time, they were very crafty. They cheated us on many trades, but their action was limited to trades. First time they got a territorial control was when Robert Clive defeated Sirajuddin Daulah. And that changed the course of India for the next 200 years, until we attained independence. Now, will you forget this? Yeah? It's very difficult to forget. You can forget all battles, but not Battle of Plassey, because that is what rendered into from one of the richest countries at the time into the poorest country. Next 200 years, we had a challenge. And now you will say, how do we look at the world? Yeah. So I hope you can see a teacher can make a big difference. Now I'll bring a couple of examples here. How you say matters over what you say. This is what is the effect of what you say. Can you see how many people have complied with this? Forget about that part. No parking. What else have you seen as an alternative to no parking? What are the other messages that you've seen? Any other, no, exactly meaning no parking. Fines, have you seen 10,000 rupees fines? Yeah. Towing zone. Nowadays, they put a clamp on a tire, some places. Take a look at this one. Yeah. This is exactly what you want to say. But how you want to say, you can say it in million ways. Million ways. The sky is the limit in how you want to say. So our ability to articulate is very, very important. I'm just bringing that angle because we can influence many minds. Yeah. So friends, just to summarize the second part that I just shared with you is summarized in a beautiful way by Ira Glass, a very famous radio personality. Radio is a dead business today. Radio personality in US. Ira Glass hosted multiple multi-million-dollar talk shows. Now it is all podcasts. Yeah. He said this beautiful line, great stories happen to those who can tell them. And as teachers, we are storytellers. We are no less storytellers. And when we tell great stories, good things happen to us and our students. So that's my. So what are the learnings? 5 more techniques I've shared here. ABC of communication. Yeah? Accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Our duty is to bring clarity. Second, appeal with a why. See how we can appeal with a why. How can we get them to emotionally connect to the topic? Associations are better in engagement, right? The bottom, the apple. What is my apple to my story? See an association that they can do. Okay? How, in addition to what? Not just what we say. How can we say in a manner that it stays with them, it reaches their hearts? And the last one is power of quotes. You can use quotes brilliantly, but don't bring cliched quotes like, folks, you have to work hard. Your work is worship. If I use a cliched quote like this, you will all walk away saying, my God, we'll learn nothing from this session. So it's very important to bring impactful. Yeah? The articulation has its play. Now, folks, I'll show you now a couple of places where I've been motivated and how I run my own sessions. Any questions you have? I have about 20 minutes more. And after that, shall we take Q&A? Yeah. Okay, what is free market? And I'm sure economics prof is here, finance, commerce, everybody is here. And you all have a definition of it very clearly. An economic system in which prices are determined by unrestricted competition between privately owned businesses. Brilliant definition. But will people be able to understand? Probably not. How many of you have heard of Milton Friedman, one of the finest economists? He explains the same free market trade. Okay, we'll play this now. Will you be able to play the, should I click on this? Yeah. Sound is integrated or no? It is. Yeah.
The basic principles underlying the free market, as Adam Smith taught them to his students in this university, are really very simple. Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. Cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was the magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
How did you feel about this? Yeah, a very complex topic, so brilliantly, beautifully brought out. And what is the emotional part of it? He says it's not about the product or money, it is about binding the hearts of people. Yeah, that's the beauty of free market. You can see all the techniques that I talked about coming together, transporting us to a world, building scenarios, making it easy for people to understand. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the storytelling concepts. Now, well, how do I teach my serious management concepts? In certain forums where people already are aware of certain exposure levels are very high, then I can raise my bar and talk about G's of the world, Infosys of the world, Tatas of the world, Birlas of the world. But the settings where students don't have that exposure, the easiest one is to bring a mango vendor. Because there's something that I can bring 4P, 7S, whatever model from just the mango vendor. How did I learn this? There's a book called What a CEO Wants You to Know by Ram Charan. Ram Charan is a thought leader, management guru. He's now in his late 70s. And Ram Charan wrote that book where he says, greatest of the CEOs like Jack Welch or Tata or whoever, Ambani, are able to analyze the most complex businesses like a mango vendor's business. That's how simplified the world looks for them. While we look at complex stuff, So that's the beauty of simple examples. I use this all the time. I use the Iyengar Bakery example on bringing the segmentation out and what is missing in Iyengar Bakery. So students can relate. Then they say, now we understand. And that association of Iyengar Bakery or a mango vendor becomes easy for them to recall the concepts. Yeah, it's that association. Okay? My entrepreneurship classes, I teach a course on entrepreneurship in a couple of institutions. How do I start? I come in and I don't ask them anything, guys. Pay attention to this next 10 minutes quickly, and then we'll discuss about the course outline and everything. This is why I want to grip that first 10 minutes. You got it right? Yeah, I stay true to that. I ask them, who is this? And obviously, that giveaway, right? Huh? And they'll all say Elon Musk. Okay, great. What is great about Elon Musk? SpaceX and all that. Okay, anything else? Tesla, anything else? OpenAI, right? Oh my God, you seem to have studied his full biography. Very nice. Thank you, ma'am. Huh? What is, sorry, what is that? Tesla. What is very little discussed is he is doing his degree. No, he didn't drop out. BA in economics. From what? Yeah. BA in economics. What is he doing in Tesla? Is he an auto? Don't you need to be an auto engineer? Bust that myth. Any of you can go on to become anything, but you need zeal. Some message like that you can bring from this. Yeah, you don't need to be from the same stream to build something. You have a great idea, we'll get an expert to build it, but you are the architect of building an institute around it. So you want to teach that part. Who is this guy? Absolutely. Look at this. Now we talk about billions. What was his office like? Can you see this? Are you willing to do this in your life? Hardships in your life? So I bring out that part. Yeah, from here. Anyone? You are right. Absolutely right. Yeah. Top 3 most valued companies in the world. Yeah. What's the story? What's the message? They started with a dream. They didn't talk about a unicorn. They didn't talk about $1 billion. They didn't even know $1 trillion. They wanted to solve a problem. Solve the problem what? Search engines were shitty. So do you have a dream? If you don't have a dream, don't romanticize entrepreneurship. Yeah. Steve Jobs, and nobody knows this guy. Most movement. Wozniacki, Steve Wozniacki. Yeah? Steve Wozniacki, as much as the success belongs to him, Jobs, he was the one who built all those hardware and software. So you need a person who is going to build it. So you need a co-founder. Most successful startups have a co-founder. Very few individual-led startups have gone on to do big. Find a co-founder. It's a dead giveaway. The brand is there. Nike, Phil Knight. The story goes, Phil Knight was an athlete in the university. Okay? And athlete, he didn't go on to become a great athlete. Their athletic coach was Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman made some finest shoes for his students. Because this is in 60s I'm talking about. Early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. Nike, Adidas was there. Puma had just gone. But there were no great shoes. So Bill Bowerman made this. After he graduated, one day Phil Knight went, my coach has such brilliant skill. Why don't we monetize? I want to build an enterprise. He goes to Bill Bowerman and says, join me. So I tell them as faculty member, invite faculty members into your startup. Anybody? I'll give you the names. They are the biggest hurdle between teacher and the students. Yeah, there is a story of that as well. This guy, Yanko, applied for Facebook and he was rejected. And 6 years later, Facebook paid $20 billion to acquire WhatsApp. Hiring mistake. Any HR folks, OB folks? Ah, what do they say? What will most likely your students say? 70-hour man, you are absolutely. You should smile about it. Yeah, 70-hour man, you are right. Yeah. And nothing was there in India, how did he build this? Yeah. There's a story of Murthy. By the way, I have the story of Murthy very close, dear to my heart, because Infy was one of the companies I worked for, and he was my alumni as well. And there is a story behind that as well. A lot of stories. Then you will understand Murthy even better. Why he is so khadus looking. He's so stern. Have you ever seen Murthy smile? This is the closest I've come. Never seen him smile. Yeah. Why is he like that? There are stories, beautiful stories. You'll understand him even better. Someone's neighbor. Whose neighbor? Ma'am's neighbor, yeah. Why did I bring this? Otherwise, you will think entrepreneurship is only left for men. Plenty of women examples. Don't worry. Yeah. Anybody knows her? Dr. Geeta Manjunath. You guys should really read about her. In our backyard. She has built a company called Niramai, which is detecting breast cancer at a very, very early stage. Unbelievable innovation. Even today, 1 out of 10 Indian women have the possibility of getting breast cancer. That's the prevalence. 50% mortality rate. The only reason women die in breast cancer is because of late detection, nothing else. Because I had the pleasure of developing a case study on this, which we have submitted in Harvard repository. I learned, nobody knows. I mean, I thought I knew, I was very well-rounded. Breast cancer, very little known. Yeah, how mammography falls short. How it is a taboo in rural areas. They don't even undergo their therapy. Yeah. So you should bring that example. Age is not a barrier. Any guesses? Sorry? Supandi. You came very close. Anant Pai, the man who created Amar Chitra Katha. So what I bring is entrepreneurship is not about just companies. It's about arts, it's about craft, it is anything. Music. You can be an entrepreneur coming from any field. We glamorize only by talking about big people. Look at this guy, Chai Wala. Entrepreneur. Please respect. Apna marji ka malik. Yeah? India is full of entrepreneurs. This is how I start my class. The first 20 minutes are spent on getting them to with the stories. You have to build that. I hope you understood, right? How I built it. I didn't want to make it just the Western world, but I have to start with Elon Musk because these people only know Elon Musk. So I have to start from their heart. Yeah, WhatsApp, this, that, all that. And then you have to bring India also, because if you don't bring India, then I've underserved my own entrepreneurs. Then sophisticated entrepreneurs. Then you bring not so sophisticated, saying these are also entrepreneurs, have respect for them. What are the challenges? What happens? Yeah, women, men, biases. Can I include that? So you, as a faculty, you think and build this whole chain of content to create that thought process in their head. And each story should bring a concept of it. So in one session, you can make them really understand it at 10,000 feet. This is what it is. Now I get it. Anyone knows what this is? No? Then we'll end the class. Enough. Please, I invite my friend. Yeah. You have to help us. Leave aside. Now, there is more to it. There is more to it, more to life than this. So what I'll do is I'll make you experience this. Yeah, I'll make you experience this rather than simply preach some concept. So I want to share, before I conclude, I'll share one more story. This is the last story for today. I think we are, after this, you guys will say that, what is that recency effect is setting in? Now you are getting, enough, Rajesh. We have sat on this chair for too long. So it's going to end up 5 minutes, okay? Last story. The last story is from my childhood again. After Sirsi, Siddhapur, we were posted in a very, very tiny village called Idagundi. None of you have heard about it. It's again a hamlet. It's a small scale Ooty in the Western Ghats, Idagundi. I was 9-year-old at that time. I'm talking about 1980-81. The poverty was palpable in India. I'll explain you how. Today, do you know per capita income of India? Roughly, per capita, $2,500 per citizen. Yeah, that's average, including Mr. Ambani, Adani, everybody said, then Rajesh Pandit and the last person below poverty line also. Yeah, 2,500. Our per capita income in 1980 was $250. Our population is 1.4 billion today. Our population was 700 million then. Means half the population, 1/10 the GDP. So poverty was palpable. Idagundi was a small village where my father was a revenue inspector, my mother was a school teacher. And we were the haves of the village. Why? Because my parents belonged to government service. We got quarters. Government quarters had walls and roofs, tiled roofs. Most houses in the village were thatched roof huts. Okay? Now, across my street from where we lived, there was a very interesting lady, old lady, 60s, mid 60s, late 60s. And her name was Aprup Maushi. Do you know what does Aprup Maushi mean? Any Marathi folks? I know Anudrani knows. Anybody else knows? Aprup Maushi means rare aunt or extraordinary aunt. That was the nickname given to her. I don't even know till date what's her real name. Yeah, because I didn't care for it. I was a 9-year-old. Now, this lady used to earn something like a rupee or a rupee and a half per day. But that was sufficient to lead life, but not of extravagance. Every Saturday, we had a very interesting person coming to our village. Now, I must tell you a little bit more. We didn't have refrigerators. This was our refrigerator. What do you mean by that? The chula, the clay stove, is around which we would organize our leftover food. Because of the warmth of the chula, the germination wouldn't take place. Yeah, there was no refrigerator. Now, every Saturday afternoon, we used to have holiday. We had only 5.5 days school. And this interesting man would sell ice pops. We used to call ice candy. Each candy would cost us 20 paise. Saturday was joyous day for all of us. We would throng around that bicycle and we would buy this. Yeah. Now, one Saturday afternoon, I didn't arrive home early. I went and played with my friend. I came home an hour late. When I arrived, Aprup Maushi was in tears. She was crying inconsolably, and my mom was trying to console her. And she was telling her, don't worry. Upon asking, I came to know that this 60 plus year old lady who had a earning of 1 rupee per day wanted to bring joy on the face of this 9-year-old on that day. So what did she do? She bought one ice pop. And having come, I haven't returned home. Do you know where Aprup Maushi stored it? On the refrigerator. So you can imagine what had happened. And she was inconsolably crying. And my mom was telling her, look, next week he's going to come, we'll buy it. And she knew 20 paise was a big amount for her. She said, even I'll give it, don't worry, I'll give it you, ma. Yeah. That event did not mean much for a 9-year-old. Because 9-year-olds, our brains were even more smaller. At least today's kids have more sensitivity. Yeah. I didn't even read into it. But that event stayed with me at a subconscious level. 2 decades ago, in some conversation, I just remembered that. And I recognized that I can never be as benevolent or as kind as Aprup Maushi. Because, somebody who had nothing to give to her, she was willing to part ways with 20% of her earnings of the day. I can never be that benevolent. But any act of kindness that I have probably has an imprint of her action throughout my life. Yeah, my life has been gifted by the kindness of millions of people. So I hope, every one of us have the duty to create that world for others. Can we do one story sharing session now? Yeah? 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes. 2.5 minutes per person. And I'll screen 2.5 minutes done, so that you don't need to be horrible to the partner. You can stop the partner and start your story. Did I transport you into my world? What do you remember from my story of Idugundi? Small town, hamlet, village, buildings, per capita income. Yeah, I gave you you have to transport them. What you need to do is share one of your happy memories from childhood. It can be an act of kindness, it can be anything, a funny event. I'll explain one of the participants shared. For this person, 80 story he shared, three siblings. This guy was the middle guy. Yeah, there is an elder brother and a younger brother. It is not that they didn't have food to eat, but Maltova, how many of you eat Maltova in this room? That tells your age, huh, by the way. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, Maltova was this Bornvita. And he said, fond memory was my mom would every day give us three boys, no? So expenses are there. So it is ration, half a spoon every day in the milk. What happened apparently is one of the Saturday afternoons, dad decided all three of you are going to the music class. And this guy resisted. And he was beaten up, roughed up for all of that. But he stood his ground and said, I'm not going. The other two boys and the dad would go for their classes. Mom would be sleeping in the afternoon. He would climb and clandestine, secretly he would eat one spoon of Maltova. He says, that pleasure I have never got even after eating in five-star hotels. Yeah. And then he said, listen to this. I said, you have to make it, thoda storytelling has to come. So he said, with every Saturday, the spoon was growing shinier. Please transport your friend, your partner, to your world where you will share one happy memory from the childhood. 2.5 minutes is all each person get. Okay, so 5 minutes breather for me. Very quickly, again speed dating. I'm going to clock it because we are getting close to 12. And then I will share the concept. Your time starts now. Yes. Please, what is that? All right, you may want to switch. Huh? If one of your friend is hogging the limelight, just stop them and switch over now. Yeah. All right, time is up. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm being a draconian prof. Saying, oh yeah, time is up. It's over. Yeah. Anyway, I just want you to tell me how is the mood now? How are you feeling? Fabulous, right? Happy. You all are feeling happy or not? Yeah. That's exactly what this is. Yeah. What you experienced is the release of oxytocin. Would you like to know the formula? All right, friends, I think we'll pause here. It can go on and on. But our duty is to create some happy memories for everyone. Yeah. The teacher's role has changed. It's no longer about Gyan. ChatGPT will give us better answers than what we can do. We must admit it. Seriously, I use it all the time. I teach marketing. I preach marketing to organizations like Hindalco, Ultratech. I thought I had arrived. And sometimes the answers that ChatGPT gives is far superior than what I would have thought. It has. There's no point contesting against it. But students will still come to the schools because books have been around. But none of us wanted to go and read the books. There is a guy who is a translator. There are emotions that are attached to the topics. That's why we learn. And our duty is to create an environment of understanding and nothing more and nothing less. That's my belief, truly. Yeah, as teachers, our roles have changed. And as I told you, the most rebellious person is bringing his or her least rebellion to the classroom. And that I have no doubt in admitting, seriously. Yeah? It's not that everybody is the same. For us, everybody is equal, right? We have no difference in somebody scores 100 or 0. A teacher leaves a lasting impression. Now, well, I have had many things to show you, but we'll leave that. Make learning a celebration. That's my request to you. That's a message to myself all the time. Sometimes I also get into the mood. We are all human beings. While God created us, we are also human beings. So we have our own emotions. We have our rough days. Something happens at home. Something happens in the career, profession. I do bring that baggage into the classroom. So don't beat yourself beyond a point, but recognize it. And I think we have a better way of coming back to life. Yeah, coming back to life. And that's where, right, despite all of this, we only learn from a few who we like. So can we become really likable, that understanding person who is sitting with the students? Yeah. And friends, even despite all these techniques, I do have rough days of this nature. And when this happens, I compare myself to the most powerful facilitator in India who also struggles like us. Take a look at this. Yeah. So everybody has rough days. Who am I? I'm a common guy. I'm not as powerful as this prof. Despite the prof, right behind the prof, you can see all three students are sleeping. Yeah. So this is life. We have to accept ourselves as human as well. So folks, don't forget this part that your impact is far reaching than the classrooms. The classroom aspect of a syllabus and curriculum is one aspect. We have to stay true to our profession. There is university, there are exams. But I think teachers' role has changed. Yeah. May you all go on to, light up many thousand more candles. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So let me ask you, what elements would you go and implement? I hope you have some thoughts. Yeah, that's your return gift to me for torturing you for 2 hours. Yeah, give some concrete ideas as to at least one element that you would go and implement. Without great next generation. Any questions, any thoughts? Yeah, the lady out there, okay, please hand over the mic. Or a reflection.
Thank you, sir, for a brilliant session. It's more a thought. It's important to integrate storytelling into how we say what we say, but stories also reveal our personal biases, and these biases sometimes might be prejudices. These prejudices might sometimes influence the people we are speaking to. That audience might be of an impressionable age. Okay, how do we prevent that, and how do we address that our own ideological orientations don't creep into storytelling, especially in pedagogical methods?
My goodness. You're lucky. You don't have such students. How do I answer this? Please help me. Ma'am, it's a very tough question you asked, I must admit. Seriously. Few things. We have our, anyway, those biases come in our life. Yeah. And biases are because of our past experiences. And every one of our experiences have been different. That's where, as a teacher, what I do is I bring in 3-4 facets. Like, am I wandering into the political side of it? Right? Even here, I brought the picture of a politician and I shudder. I keep that only to the extent of the biggest powerful facilitator, nothing beyond. Yeah. In communication, when I teach, people ask, how do you compare Modi against Rahul? And I say, that is something that I don't comment on in the classroom. I have my opinion, I'll keep it to myself. So what elements are a taboo for you? And people will say, you don't have a point of view, you don't want to shape. No, I'm not an activist, I'm a teacher. There are 100 other things that I want to focus on. This is unfortunately not, because political science is not that I teach anyway. So one of you is teaching political science, then you have a slightly difficult proposition. My life is much easier. So I have written a few things like religion, for example. No, not in my class. So there are some 4-5 elements, and I've kept that as a dial saying any of the things that I'm even remotely mentioning. Like I want to give you an example. Just last week, this was lightly brought out, okay, in a context that biology, to me as a student, again, you brought the personal bias, right, is illogical. It is what it is. Like quantum physics at the end, even Richard Feynman said, particle has duality, but it is what it is. Don't ask me why. Why it has duality, I can't tell you. That's the nature of particle. So it's a dead end. Yeah. So therefore, I just lightly mentioned, like, this is a generation which grew up on biology. And today's generation is more on sociology, psychology. What I meant is, it's relatively easier to relate to. This is unrelatable. But one of the students came to me and she said, "Sir, you said it in a light way, but I want you to recognize this. I'm an English major. And when I had to write a critical analysis, I think I had to deep dive more than even the most complex of the science topics." And I said, "Wow, you are absolutely right. How did I miss that blind spot?" And in the next class, I had to come and correct myself, saying, there was absolutely no disrespect, but my facet of bringing was this. Yeah, I have seriously. One thing that you take backseat, at least in the classroom, is ego. One thing I realized. And second is awareness. Awareness is about watching ourselves, right? You all know, and this slightly mushy topic, like you cannot say what is awareness. Awareness is knowing how I am feeling, what I am feeling, and my emotions at any given point in time. So especially when you nudge me now, somebody says, "Rajesh was a great, but I learned nothing, man." Serious note, huh? When you say this serious note, the cortisol kicks in because, oh my God, 2 hours, everybody applauded, but now I'm bare, I'm naked. The moment that happens, now my reaction will be very different. I wouldn't have equanimity to handle. Whereas the moment I have the awareness watching me, I will start seeing, oh my God, why am I changing? That is the opinion of one person. Let me understand. Ma'am, can you tell me what is that one reason you failed? And the person will share that, saying, this is why I failed. And if you had shared something which she missed, then you can mention. Maybe I mentioned you missed it, right? At least this would help you. Or I may say, you are right. Today's session, I missed you grossly. My apologies for wasting your 120 minutes. That happens when I'm aware of my own emotions. Yeah, ma'am. So that's the journey that I'm into even today, to be honest with you. Yeah. You can't eliminate all the biases because we are human beings. We are not only a realized person will do that because for them there is no thought. I have a thought. I want to come into the classroom and impart that thought. So so I don't have a right answer, but my dial has been 3-4 areas I take up to make this a safe zone. And second is my own awareness, and I am willing to listen to my students. I am just like you. I'm learning as much as I'm sharing some thoughts. So those are the two aspects. Tough one. I don't know whether it made sense for you. Thank you. Any other questions, friends? Tell me a couple of things that you reflected on, saying, maybe this is what I want to do. Anything, any of you? All right. I think, it's almost known. Our stomachs are also growling. Yeah. Wishing you the best of life and best of luck. Thank you. And again, Anutai, thanks for bringing me here and to the management team of JLC. Grateful. So friends, you had a big hand for making it work. The audio, video, pictures. Thanks to you too.
It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. Sincere gratitude to Rajesh Pandit for an engaging and insightful session. We appreciate your time and meaningful contribution to today's session. So we must say that from the feedbacks that we have received from the online participants, it is an excellent, extremely engaging, inspiring session. These are the terms they have written in the feedback session. Thank you so much for taking your time and be with us and having an inspiring session for our online and offline participants. Thank you. I would like to thank our beloved sisters for their constant guidance and support. My sincere gratitude to Sister Mary Louisa, Sister Nalini Cruz, Sister Sajida Jose for their support and guidance in this FDP. My sincere gratitude to IQAC Coordinator, Deputy IQAC Coordinators and COE. Our gratitude goes to the FDP Organizing Committee, Dr. Leena Nair, Organizing Secretary, Dr. Josephine Narmada, Miss Anupama Bhatt, ma'am, we need to thank you. Kindly make sure that you bring Sir one more time so that we can have a longer session on storytelling. Thank you. Mr. Mikhail Rajaram and Dr. Rajesh Dharmaraj, whose tireless commitment and dedication have brought this initiative to life. We are equally grateful to the various FDP committee coordinators and members for their wholehearted support and dedication. A special mention to Mr. Praveen and Mr. Richard, the IT and the tech team for their commitment. Thank you, dear participants, for your presence and wholehearted engagement. Thank you once again and wishing you a blessed and inspiring day ahead. The feedback link is posted in the chat box and will remain open for the next 2 hours. Kindly take a moment to share your reflections. And dear offline participants, please make sure that you sign the attendance sheet before you leave the auditorium. Thank you.